could well be by himself. He's obviously lying down in some mud. Even though we can't see it, his backside and his belly will be in some cooling mud. Very hot out here. You could actually see those oxpeckers as well. If you watch them carefully, you'll see just now they sit with their beaks open just to try and cool themselves down a bit more. These are the kind of guys that we refer to as dugger boys. Now, if you're walking out here and you're walking in thick bush or you're coming down to a waterhole, quite often these guys could be lying just like this guy is, maybe in some thick grass, or if you're in river systems in some reeds or something. And then if you're not careful, you can bump into them. And they're not necessarily the friendliest of animals when you bump into them and they get a fright. They can quite easily just try and give you a fright back. And at weighing about a ton, just under a ton, they can do that quite easily. Taking it easy. We're glad we saw something at 3 hours. What's going on here? 3 hours dam has been so quiet the last many times we've come past. It just shows you again that things are starting to dry out, things are getting drier out in general. Less water ponds, less pools, just the bigger dams that have water. So slowly they'll get busier and busier again, unless of course we get some big rainstorms soon. They tend to be a little bit shy, as you can see, trying to hide behind the knobthorn leaves. They're outsmarting us, Alex.
He's outsmarting me. Oh, there's another one.
Oh, all hiding away. Let's try and still play with them a little bit. Very funny little guys. But monkeys quite often do. It just gives an idea of where it's sitting. It's up on the tree there. Big sturdy knobthorn, big enough and strong enough to not have to worry about things like elephant. The only animals that really harass us there are the baboons. If you look at that sort of disc lower down from the camera, Alex will show you there, that's the microphone. That's where the monkeys, the baboons especially, often play around on and use it as a platform, those teenage baboons. Just further up, there's the camera. So that's where you get to have a look at the waterhole from. Let's have a look at Alex's favorite animals down there. Vlakvark. Warthogs. Mkolobi, as they call them in Tonga. Don't see that many of them around here. We spoke about it the other day. It's not really the ideal environment for warthogs. Combination of a few things. One is that there's a lot of predators. They're so cute, the little ones. This one wants to see what that hardy-da ibis is about. But too many predators, both lion, leopard, cheetah, wild dogs, hyenas, they can all prey on warthog. And in this specific area, Sabi Sands, that we're in, you've got quite a lot of very hard clay soils, not very sort of deep, softer soils for these animals to burrow into, so it's quite hard for them to find safe burrows. The burrows are a little bit further and farther in between than they would be in some other habitats. So the escape routes and places to hide and places to sleep, it's all a bit harder. You combine that with many predators and you've got not the highest success rate of breeding here for warthogs. But nonetheless, they're around. Always nice to see little Pumbas.
She's going to have a bath.
Yeah, little mud wallow there. Warthogs, like most other animals that don't have hair on the skin, compare them to things like buffalo and rhino maybe, they love a good mud wallow. It's nice to cool down in. Obviously it's been a very hot day, still is. Nice to cool down that way, but also it's a good way to get rid of some ticks and some fleas and parasites that might be on the skin. Now I'm sure she's going to go for a little scratch or a rub now up against one of those logs. Let's see what she does. So the question come through from Claire regarding these sort of water plants growing on the water, Gari waterhole. I must be honest with you, I can't remember the name for them anymore. They don't have an English name, only a scientific name. But they should flower sometime. Again, I can't remember exactly when, but I think later into summer they actually make beautiful yellow flowers. I remember in about 2002 we had a fantastic leopard sighting here once, and I photographed these leopards on these yellow flowers. It looked amazing. So I'm sure we'll get that again soon, Claire. So we're going to maybe move on soon, but as soon as there's some flowers on it, we'll have a proper look at it. Warthogs are funny. They like baboons a little bit. You can almost watch them even if they're not doing much, just because you expect them to do something at some stage. One of your favorites, Alex?
I love warthogs. So, Peter, can you tell me the reason why they go down on the knees when they feed? Is there any reason for it?
It's just easier. Just what Alex is talking about is, she's just stood up now, but quite often they fold the wrists essentially, or the knees, for the sake of explanation, just to get lower down. It's just easier. Makes digging easier. Use the snout. Got a very hard ridge on top of the nose as well, warthogs. They use those tusks a little bit for digging, but typically most of the digging, like pigs, they use the hard upper edge of the nose or the snout. So they're actually sniffing as they dig as well. Yeah, it's quite funny. They can spend sometimes hours walking around on their, call it the knees, on their wrists. Scrawny little piggy. Typically they've got 3 or 4, 5 even piglets early summer, and depending on where they are and what area they're in, on average probably about 50% of those survive. I'd say in Sabi Sands probably about 25%. Okay, I think we're going to continue on a little bit. Have a quick look at those plants. Alex, just have a look through here. This is the sort of plants Claire was talking about. Like I said, we'll have another look at it another time when these things are actually in flower. They make these small yellow flowers. It's quite beautiful. Nice and lush, growing in the shallows of the water. Kudus also eat it, but waterbuck especially feed on this quite often.